Good evening, everyone. So glad to see you all here on the World Wide Webs for our next installment of the Course Director Development Webinar here in the Northeastern District, the Great Northeastern District, excuse me. We are very excited to do another one of these. I heard lots of feedback that said you loved hearing these and seeing these on the web and seeing these on YouTube in the weeks to come, so you got it. I have a special guest for us tonight, and I can't wait to introduce him and get going. Glad you're all here. I see some faces out there from Maine and from Nova Scotia, and we are representing the NED all around here. Here we go. Next slide. So some quick things just to bring you up to speed. It's been a while since we've talked. We had a bunch of guys from the NED at Directors College at Belmont University. That was awesome to see. So many of us out there. I think a bunch of us are even on the call today. It's great to see. Jay, you were out there, right?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, did you have a good time?
I had a great time.
What was your?
We're discovering all the things I don't know.
That's awesome. What do you think was your big takeaway?
Well, it's just that for me, it was just the way I treat the people, the way I treat the chorus, and how I try to handle rehearsals is in line with a lot of the teachings and the ideas that especially like Chris Peterson and other people are advocating. It's just the way of teaching is very similar to how I try to handle a rehearsal. So that was to me that was good. It was kind of reaffirming that.
Yeah, nice.
In that direction, I'm going in the right way.
Awesome. Good. And Russell S., we have several Russells on the call today. Russell S., you were out there again. You're a repeat customer. What was your big takeaway this time? You keep coming back like a song.
Hey, you know, that could be a lyric. Actually, I'm singing with the Dartmouth chorus. We're coming down to the district contest in October, and we're singing that song.
Nice.
As it happens. But anyway, big takeaway. Well, there were, I think, two. Working in the honors chorus with Rob Mance directing was just one giant week of awesomeness. All kinds of stuff that my co-director and I got from that. And speaking of co-director, the other big takeaway I think we got was a class taught by Jay Dowdy as Steve Scott. You may have heard of Steve Scott, I don't know. But they did this course, this one-night course on co-directing that is interesting, and we're looking at implementing a lot of what they suggested into our chorus over the next little while. So we're actually having a music committee meeting about it tomorrow night, and we'll bring that up. So
good.
Those are my big takeaways.
That's good. And would you go a 13th time or a 12th time? You've been 11 times, right? Oh, you just muted yourself, sorry. I assume you said yes. 13 times in a row. Let's see.
I said yes.
Okay. Terrific. And then we came back for a few days and then went right off to Harmony College Northeast for our director's track, where we had Rob Mance come for the weekend and spew knowledge all about our directors. It was great. Great. Good to have Rob here. And then just yesterday, we had a CDWI down in Danbury, Connecticut, hosted by the Danbury chapter and Joe Hudson. And we had Sean Milligan come up from Florida as one of the clinicians, and Joe Hunter, so many Joes. Joe Hunter came up from New York to be the other clinician. We had a wonderful time. 4 directors and a bunch of guys from all the different courses down there had a blast. And if you are tuning in and you have never been a part of a CDWI, please give it a shot. I know a bunch of you guys on the call have done it before. Planning on budgeting for 5 next year. Hope to get out to Nova Scotia, maybe bring one up to you guys, so cross your fingers. So let me know if you'd like to be a part of that. It's a great full day director workshop just for you. You get to be in the hot seat. Right, Jay?
Thanks.
Terrific. Oh, and I'm very pleased to announce that we have a faculty member for the directors part of Leadership Academy in January, the first Saturday in January. I believe it's the 7th or something like that. 1717. Joe Cerruti of the Alexandria Harmonizer is going to be our clinician for our director's master class. We usually spend the morning chatting and doing some one-on-one conducting lessons, and then the afternoon will be a mock rehearsal. Joe will lead us in the Joe way, and we'll be the chorus. We get to learn by doing, so that's going to be a blast. Mark your calendars for that. Please come. Let's see. All right, our guest speaker for the evening, Steve Scott. Going to be talking about all things vocal pedagogy and care of the senior voice, straw and beverage not included. I tried to fit all of his degrees on the slide. I had to use really small font, but there you go. He's a wealth of knowledge. Feel free to ask away anything you can possibly dream up, and I'm sure he'll at least make up something that sounds very intelligent. I had Steve for a couple classes at Harmony U, and Steve filled in gaps in my bachelor's degree in music education by the end of Monday's class. So I'm going to try to get that refund from my alma mater and just go see Steve from now on. And I invited Steve to come talk about the senior voice, especially because that was one of the classes I took, and I think he has a lot to offer us. So I will flip it over to Steve, and he can present his slides from his end. Welcome, Steve.
Hello, hello.
How you doing?
Let's see, do I have control?
You're about to.
Absolute power.
Absolute power.
Itty bitty living space. Oh, yes.
You got it. There you go.
Got it? Well, hello, everybody.
Hi, Steve.
Hello, Mr. Scott.
I'd like for this class to be as organic as possible. I have got a bunch of slides, 20-something slides, with a lot of information that can be rather dense, but we don't have to do it that way. I'd like for it, if anything, I'd like for it to be very practical for you and your guys, your chorus guys or gals or whoever you have that you're directing, or maybe even for yourself, or asking for a friend if you prefer. So, yeah, this class is kind of the culmination of a couple years of graduate school, some personal research on my part, and some from a colleague at the Westminster Choir College in New Jersey. Are we still together? It says trying to connect.
I see your screen.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you see the screen? Hear me?
I can. Trying to connect looks like, is it Google talking?
Maybe. All right, we'll just keep going.
Move your mouse.
Anyway, so this information is a culmination of a lot of years of research and interest on my part. I've been a barber shopper for 25 years, but I've also been doing the academic thing for probably more than I want to admit. My wife really wants me to get a job. But, yeah, so I feel really passionate about singing and teaching is singing, and because I love barbershop so much and a large population of the barbershop community is life experienced, then it would seem only natural to make sure that I had all the goods on this class right here. So,
There you go.
if anybody has a question, is there a raise your hand function, or is there a...
There's a chat window, and we all have microphones and voices. We can just shout right out.
Yeah, so just wait for me to take a breath, and hopefully that's a good time to pause, and I'll just hopefully try to answer the question. So,
Got it.
a couple questions that can guide us today are: what happens to the voice as it ages? Are vocal problems inevitable? Are they preventable? Can I recover from an age-related voice problem? And when should I stop singing? And Google's being lovely. So the talk today will cover some of the basic function of the voice, not too crazy, and then we'll talk about some of the things that happen physiologically as a person ages and some of the age-related sound changes that happen. Hopefully by the end we'll be able to talk about some things you could do to both prevent and maybe recover from these age-related happenings. As soon as Google figures itself out. So while this is trying to queue, I'll just use my notes.
Steve, I'll see if I can bring it up. You go ahead and talk away.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk about the structure of the singing voice, developmental changes, characteristics of aging voice, impact of health on vocal health, and what to do. So the first thing, and we don't really need a visual for this, that sound occurs in the human voice with the vocal folds, just like a regular violin or a drum. Each of these instruments power source. In the case of the piano, each instrument has a vibrato source. In the case of the piano,
We're losing your audio a bit,
violin,
Steve.
it's the string and the trumpet mouthpiece. You lose my audio too.
Yeah, it's a little clippy. Let me see.
Yeah, that's just how I talk.
Yeah. You got some dysphonia going on.
That's a problem. You might want to get fixed.
Yeah.
I know a guy.
You do?
Yeah, me. I can fix it. Oh, there we go.
Y'all caught up?
I'm caught up. Are you good? Can you hear me, see me?
Yep, I can hear you and see you now.
Okay, good.
Go ahead.
All right, so yeah, so we have a power source, vibrating source, and in the human voice, the vibrating source, the source of sound, is the vocal folds. We have one resonator in the human body, and that's the vocal tract. You know, sometimes people will talk about, hopefully in metaphor, they'll talk about, you know, your head or your chest as resonators or sinus cavities that resonate. We in fact have one resonator in our body, and that's the vocal tract. That's everything from your vocal folds to your lips. Includes such structures as the back of your throat, called the pharynx, and the mouth, called the oral cavity. The tongue's in the way, and the soft palate is in there. Sometimes if you have your soft palate down, the nasal cavity can act as an extension of the vocal tract, but it's not very efficient. All right, so we're all good with that. Moving on. So today, an overview of the larynx, nothing too crazy. We'll talk about, these are just things you can refer to later. These are the cartilages, these are the muscles, the internal muscles, and then the external muscles. It's important to know about the difference between the cartilages and the muscles because it changes to each structures as we age. Specifically about the senior voice, it is important to realize that there's a difference between chronological age and biological age. Chronological age, if you're 82, that's it, you're 82. Some people, when they're 50, their biological age is 82. Some people who are 82 have the biological age of 50. It's just a matter of how well you've taken care of yourself, how much environmental factors have or have not taken a toll on you. Some of it's genetics, some of it's luck. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you got what you got. Some of it you can prevent, some of it you can take care of. But in terms of your voice, I hear sometimes like I was working with some seniors in Virginia a couple weeks ago, and there was a 92-year-old in that chorus, and man, did he have a good voice. He sang like a 70-year-old. Really great. So we're now, hang on for a little while, we're going to get a little on the depressing side. Here are all the things that happen to you as you age. First of all, there's muscle atrophy, loss of muscle fiber density, there's lots of elasticity, and in terms of what happens to the voice, that results in bowed vocal folds. We'll talk about that later. Muscles are spindle fibered tissue, and mixed in there's some elastin, and that those fibers together make it so, like my daughter who's 6, if she were to run across the grass and fall down, she would pop back up and keep on running. If I were to run across the grass, and I'm 36, if I were to fall, that would probably hurt a lot, and I might take me a little bit longer to get back up. My dad, who's 70, first of all, is not going to be running across the grass. He will mosey. But if he were to fall down, he would hurt himself probably pretty greatly. And that has a lot to do with how much atrophy there is in the muscles and in the bones. With the neuromuscular, sometimes, a lot of times, the central nervous system starts to slow, and so you'll see people, instead of a naturally slow tremor in their body, sometimes that tremor will slow and it'll get wider and it'll get more pronounced. That sometimes in an older voice will result in a little bit of a wobble. That's a neuromuscular event. The vocal folds, among other things, are mucous membranes, and mucous membranes decrease their mucosal secretions. What that means with the senior voice is that your voice has a little bit more of a tendency to dry out more. I know a lot of seniors tend to suck on a cough drop or something like that just to get some of that saliva going. Joint surface erosion, yeah, we get arthritis in our joints, right? Well, we also can get it in the larynx. I don't know, when I heard that, I thought that was a particular kind of a bummer. Arthritis in the voice. That can happen. And so that means that the joint that needs to tilt out for high notes, that's the thyro joint there. There's a synovial joint there. If that joint gets arthritis, it means that you have less of an ability to really get that joint to move, the cartilage to move down, so you can get to those higher notes. Because when the thyroid cartilage tilts down and out, that means your vocal folds stretch, and that means you can get to a higher note. And so getting to those higher notes can sometimes be a problem if you have arthritis there. So if you have that in your own voice, or you know somebody in your chorus that does, or you're asking for a friend, see if that's something that might be a part of it. More age-related factors: lung capacity. We just lose the ability to breathe as much volume of air than we do as a youngster. I have an interesting bullet point there. At age 75, respiratory efficiency can be half of that of a 30-year-old. Wow. That doesn't mean you're less efficient with your vocal folds. More air does not mean better singing. I'm going to state that categorically right off the bat. More air does not mean better singing. It just means you have less air, meaning you have more carbon dioxide in your lungs. I have a friend who's large in stature, and he noticed that he also has decreased lung capacity because of how large he is. The aging bodies become more stiff and less mobile, and the cartilages in our bones start to ossify. The cartilages, if you remember from our slide 5, these cartilages, they can start to calcify, meaning they're just stiffer and less mobile. Reduced blood flow, injuries are more likely. Here's some other age-related issues: obesity, hypothyroidism, gastroesophageal reflux, which can also be impacted by pharyngeal acidity, meaning the food and drink that we consume that has high acid content can affect us a little bit more as we age. Many medications that we take as we age can be drying, and I'll have a slide later where you can go to a website so you can see what the effect of your medicines are on your voice. As we age, we are more prone to serious illness and more frequent surgeries, and so if that's something that is occurring to you or something that you know, then that will take an effect on your voice. You know, a singer joke, at least a singer-teacher joke, is that, you know, a student will come to you and say, I stubbed my toe, so I can't really sing today. On the one hand, it's kind of funny, but on the other hand, it's also kind of true. Things that affect your body they just tend to manifest in your voice. So if you're physically tired, you're going to be vocally tired too. If your body's dehydrated, your voice is going to be dehydrated. If you're in pain, it's just all of that will affect the voice. The surgery part is something that deserves a special attention because when you get intubated, the anesthesiologists can choose the size of tube that they put between your vocal folds, and their job is made easier when they have more air going into the lungs, so they don't have to watch it as much if there's more air. But that means that could also be potentially harmful for your voice because they're sitting right on your vocal folds. So if you're going to get a surgery in the near future, talk to your doctor and your anesthesiologist and make sure that you let them know that you are a singer. Singing means a lot to you, and that's something that they take very, very high care of, and use a smaller tube wherever possible. All right, I'm not a hearing technician, but I'll share the stuff that I do know about hearing. There is loss of hearing as we age. We know this. You know, as a joke, the students will download a sound that plays at like 15,000 hertz or something like that, and I just can't hear that high of a frequency anymore. And so we start to lose that ability that we have little in our cochlea, the inner ear, that once they receive damage, then they're gone. We don't receive that hearing back. Once it's gone, it's gone. There are things that we can do to amplify it a little bit, but we're kind of stuck with the hearing loss that we have for the time being. We also get arthritis in those bones, just to throw gas on the fire, I guess. Okay. I do want to take a second to talk about noise-induced hearing loss. Noise-induced hearing loss happens for a variety of reasons. Here are some sounds that you may or may not know the intensity level of them. In normal conversations, about 60 decibels. If you're driving down the highway, that's probably about 70 decibels. And a vacuum cleaner is 80 decibels. We can take what's called a dose of these noise levels only for so long before we receive noise-induced hearing loss. So I attend one of the universities in the United States that happens to really pride itself on how loud its sports fans can cheer inside the basketball arena. They have one of those decibel meters in the auditorium that shows, oh my gosh, the whole crowd, we're up to 120 decibels. We can't take that much loudness for too long. We can handle about a half an hour of that before we start to receive permanent noise loss, hearing loss. So just be aware of that. Something that's happening a lot with kids nowadays, and them kids and their headphones, they got those earbuds in, and we use them too. We got those earbuds in, but if they're at a max decibel level, that's 100 decibels. We can't take too much of that before we receive permanent hearing loss. All right, so fun age-related stuff, and then there's that little slide on noise-induced hearing loss. Okay, so now getting back to the aging larynx, the voice. How do we prevent this? How do we know what's going on? First of all, the top picture there, that's a young, healthy-looking larynx, And then the bottom picture, that's an aged larynx. You can start to see, you see the arrows pointing right to a groove in the vocal fold. It's called a sulcus. That can occur because of vocal fold atrophy. The muscles and the ligaments there, they start to get smaller, and so we just have a less of an ability to see what's going on. That's called vocal fold bowing, meaning the vocal folds, instead of forming a complete closure, they bow out in the middle. So let me show you a YouTube video of what that looks like. Can you see what that is right there?
Mm-hmm.
Are we seeing this YouTube?
I'm seeing the screen. Did you click play yet?
I haven't clicked play yet. I just want to make sure you're seeing that.
I'm with you. Maybe a little laggy
No,
over the presentation, but we'll give it a shot. Is it playing on your end? Ah.
So the vocal folds will come together, but because of the atrophy, they bow open. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So you see that gap there? That's when you start to get that old man sound. You kids, get off my lawn. That's the vocal folds parting. They come together, and because of the atrophy, they're unable to stay closed. That's called medialization. So the vocal folds are unable to medialize to form a complete closure, and
Okay, so in this tutorial we're
I'm
going to
not
talk
sure why that happened. Thank you. That's level. Turn autoplay off.
So the general sort of thinning of the sound, a little breathier, is because of the bowing and atrophy. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Because of the vocal fold bowing. That's correct.
No. And I'm sure you'll get to this, but if you could go over some things that we can possibly do as directors to help with that.
Yep. Well, I'll get to that at the end for sure.
Awesome.
As soon as this screen goes back. Yay, okay. That's lovely. Okay, and we're back. I did want to show you what that sounds like in an aged voice. Maybe.
There you go.
I'm Walter Bruning. How old are you? In America, there's a couple of them born. I'm Walter Bruning. How old are you? 110 years old. I'm the oldest man in America. There's a couple of them born somewhere else, foreign country. But I'm the oldest U.S. citizen. That don't mean nothing. Don't mean a thing. See, no secret at all. No secret at all. It's just the good Lord, I guess, has just allowed me to live this long.
Does that sound like anybody you know? Have you heard that voice, class?
A little bit.
Still there?
Yep. They're very well behaved. I told them to mute unless they're talking, so they're all reaching for their mouse and clicking their speaker. But yes, that does sound like people we know. Absolutely. Chime in, class.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's just, so that's that's a kind of a typical sounding aged voice, or older voice at least.
Sure.
All right, some more some more good news. We have the loss of hormones. It's interesting to note that there are differences in the sexes, that men stop producing as much testosterone and women stop producing as much estrogen, and it has a distinct different change in the sound of the voice for each of the sexes. Let me just briefly talk about the lifetime the changes that happen over a lifetime for the different sexes. As when boys and girls are the same age, but prior to puberty, their voices sound pretty much identical. There's not too much change, or there's not too much difference in the frequency, the average fundamental frequency of the speaking voice of boys and girls. Then puberty hits, and boys produce testosterone in quite a bit larger quantity than females do, and because of that, there are changes to the actual physiology of to the anatomy of the larynx. And so what that means is the voices get lower and deeper. The vocal folds are thicker and longer. In the average adult female, the size of the vocal folds are about the length of a nickel, or I'm sorry, of a dime, and the average length of a vocal fold for an adult male is about the length of a nickel. When we experience this hormone loss as we get into our older years, women after they go through menopause, or as they start going through menopause, and as men get into their what some are calling andropause, but certainly later into life they lose that ability to produce testosterone, and so men's voices, because of that, will start to drift up in pitch, and female voices start to drift down in pitch. I'm sure you know women with lower speaking voices, and that certainly doesn't sound like a teenage girl's voice. And so towards the end of a person's life, they can have the same range, speaking range, boy or girl, and it doesn't matter, male or female. It's kind of the same. It's an interesting tidbit as the voice changes over a lifetime. Vocal quality. So the vocal folds become less supple, meaning you have there's loss of high notes, and there's certainly loss of intensity, and that comes from the inability to get the vocal folds to close all the way. You'll start to hear that breathiness or huskiness, and sometimes that will be coupled with a bit of squeeze in the breathiness, because a singer will hear that breathiness in their voice, and they will try to compensate for that by pressing. They'll use their extrinsic laryngeal muscles, sometimes the tongue, to help get the vocal folds to close all the way. All right. I'm not sure how much you guys want to know about menopause. You probably don't even like hearing the word.
I know too much about it already.
Okay.
That's another story.
Another story.
Should it be woman of
yeah, womenopause. That's funny. In America, we have something called Cliff's Notes. In Canada, what is that called?
We had Cole's Notes for a while. I'm not even sure if those are still published. But, yeah.
The Cole's Notes. All right. So I'll give you the Cole's and the Cliff's Notes. Menopause, a vocally unstable period for women, often resulting, their voice can change from, every couple months there can be change. They're just something to be aware of. If you're director of a female chorus, there may be some range adjustments necessary. It's just like puberty for males. It happens. It's nothing to be afraid of, nothing to freak out about. It's a natural process, and it's something to just kind of take into stride. Vibrato. That's something that we don't like talking about in a barbershop. Vibrato, oh no, we're not supposed to have vibrato. That's false. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about as we age. Vibrato, first of all, is a slight change in the frequency being sung. So, for example, if I'm singing a middle C, that's 60 hertz, 230 hertz. It is not the only pitch that you're singing. So you're singing, let's just say 230 hertz. You're also singing 235 hertz, and you're also singing 225 hertz. The vibrato of your body works a lot like the air conditioner in your house. If you set it at 21 degrees, is that a good rough sketchly?
Yeah, that's actually pretty right on. That was I'm very impressed.
All right. I'm getting my learning
You
to speak
Googled
Canadian.
the conversion there, didn't you? You just Googled that before you said it.
I've just been in Canada enough, I know. Yeah, so 21 degrees or 72 degrees in your house, then your air conditioner will blow at 68 or 19 until your temperature of the house goes below the temperature that you set it at, and then it'll stay off until your house gets to 80 or to 75 or whatever it is, and then it'll blow colder so the temperature in your house can drop below, again, the temperature that you set it at. On the average, your house is going to be 72 or 21 degrees, but not always. And that's kind of the same thing for vibrato. Vibrato, you're singing 230 hertz, but you're also hearing and but you're hearing that mostly. Now, if there's some sort of tension in the voice, or there's something that's age-related happening to the voice, then there are variations on that. And so let's talk about that for a second. So when you get a natural vibrato, that's probably because of a couple reasons, either tension or it can be neurological. We have to have vibrato in our voice. We have electrical pulses from our brain going to all parts of our body, allowing us to live, our muscles to move, our heart, brain to function in most cases. Depends on which political party you're at. But because of those electrical pulses, we cannot keep still. It's impossible for us to be still. We are moving just slightly all the time. And that slight electrical pulse in our body is a natural occurring phenomenon. So that natural vibrato is okay. Course directors, it is physically, and I mean in the physics sense, it's physically impossible to have a straight tone produced by a human. We cannot produce that. There is always going to be vibrato, and that naturally occurring vibrato is okay. Now, if we get vibrato because of something else, something that's pronounced, something that perhaps cuts through the chorus, that's because of either tension or something that's perhaps neurological. The tension-related stuff, that's something that we can fix. In my experience, tension occurs because of a singer's well-intentioned but misplaced efforts on trying to do whatever it is you're asking them to do. So the tension-related vibrato comes from, and just off the top of my head, tension usually occurs because of something that's happening with the tongue. I'll see tension in the jaw. I can hear tension in the muscles surrounding the larynx. Sometimes tension comes from the muscles in the epigastrium or the abdominal area. Whatever happens that you're tensing a muscle beyond what's necessary for its natural function, that's going to result in tension and a shake. I worked with, just a couple examples, I worked with I would say young man, he's 30. He has been recovering from an illness and is concerned that he lost some of his lower notes, and he was unable get them, they became really, really pronounced. The vibrato was pronounced, and they just wasn't getting the closure that he wanted to down there. After trial and error, we found the vibrato. We found the cause of the tension was in the muscles right above his larynx. It was right on the base of the tongue. I worked with an older gentleman in, you know what, I don't even remember where it was. I want to say Virginia. He had muscle-related, tension-related vibrato in 2 places. It was in his tongue and it was also in his abdomen. And that was kind of a bugbear just to try to figure that out. But just because somebody has vibrato, your first reaction is less vibrato. Well, that's like a doctor, somebody going to the doctor says, "Doc, my leg hurts." Well, don't stand on it. That's not helpful. Figure out why it hurts. Figure out what the cause of the is. If it's something that's tension related, then address the tension. It's probably going to be something in the tongue or the jaw or the neck. Just spoiler alert. A friend of mine happened to catch somebody who had a really, really clenched soft palate area. He just happened to have vibrato in his soft palate. I know that's kind of hard to figure. I can't even wrap my brain around that, but there it was. All right, something that's neurological, like a tremor, that may or may not be something that you can fix. Sometimes if it's related to something with a palsy, you can maybe get some medication with that. But either a tremor or a wobble, you're just going to have to try to see if what can be done medically with that. But first, check to see if it's something that somebody's actually doing. You'll be able to tell by physical cues, and you can also tell by their speaking voice. Do they have a little bit of a wobble when they talk? If they have a little bit of a wobble when they talk, then it's going to manifest itself in the singing voice. But if it's not in the singing voice, you know, they say, "Hey guys." They say something like that where they're prolonging the hey and the guys, "Hey guys." They're doing something like that and you don't hear any vibrato or a tremor or a wobble, then it's probably something that's tension related. Make sense? Moving on.
It does.
All right, so we got through the depressing part. If you stayed with me this far, it looks like everybody's still here. Then
we're all still on the call.
So, all right, I hate to kick off my own call here. So some things that we can do to prevent or perhaps restore a little bit of the voice function. First of all, stay fit. The healthier you are, generally, the healthier your voice is going to be. That's just kind of a rule of thumb. If that's something that you can't really prevent right now, then try to see how much restoration you can do. I saw a really cool YouTube video of this octogenarian lady who had severe bowing in her back, really what's pronounced called kyphosis, just really big hump in her back, and she was unable to get around, and she had a hard time walking and doing very much. And she started to do, and I'm not prescribing anything here, but she started to do yoga and to gain a little bit more flexibility back. And it's amazing to see the before and after videos of her kind of hunched over on one of those walkers with the tennis balls on the bottom to actually being able to stand up straight and go for walks, just how much ability she was able to get back. So some of that age-related stuff is once it's gone, it's gone. But I mean, there's lots of stuff you still can do, and a lot of it has to do with how much you are actually changing in your life. You know, when you're in a profession that allows you to use your voice on a daily basis, say a teacher or somebody in the clergy, or even like a cashier, somebody that uses their voice all the time, every day, changes when you retire and you watch TV for 20 hours a day. If you go from a lot of voice use to no voice use, that's really hard to do. Imagine, you know, being a runner and then just suddenly deciding to spend a month in bed. That's going to atrophy your muscles. So if you want to sing into your 90s, you have to sing literally every day. Sing every day. try to move every day, even more than just from the couch to the refrigerator. Get out, get around. You know, a lot of guys, I know a lot of guys that their only singing that they do is in the car, listening to the learning tracks on the way to the rehearsal, singing at the rehearsal, and then singing into the rehearsal tracks on the way home. That's not enough singing, guys. You have to sing every single day. Sleep well, eat well, speak well, sing well. I am not a medical professional, so if there's something that is beyond your capacity to take care of, go see somebody. Tell them you're a singer. Tell them you want to do more singing, or you want to keep your current singing up, and they can help you with that. So that's their job. Note about medicine: what you ingest makes a big difference. Check your meds. This website right here, ncbs.org/rx, that will tell you the names of most medications that have an effect on the voice. If it's not on there, you're in luck. But I will say medicines are pretty tough on the voice because allergy medications usually are their goal is to dry out those mucous membranes that are giving you fits, and as we've already talked about, the vocal folds are mucous membranes, and so they will dry out that mucus from them. Somebody getting really excited about something.
Sound like someone dropped the phone.
Anticonvulsant medications and I know some depression medications are also have effects on the voice, so just check those out. So before we get into some of the things that you should be doing, or some of the restorative or preventative singing things, let's talk about being the pros of the senior voice. You know, I just spent 18 slides saying, well, here are all the things that are bad that's going to happen. Here are the pros, and these are major pros. First one, and it deserves special mention, that there are vast stores of life experience. Just to be frank, somebody who's 20 has no idea what they're talking about when they're talking about a lifetime of love. They're 20. They don't know what they're talking about. They know what their 20 years are telling them, but somebody who's like my parents going on 50 years of marriage, that's something quite a bit different. That life experience should inform their singing, should inform their vocal choices, and should inform their performing choices as well. Further, it can also serve to help the other members of the chorus in their own quest for finding their own story in the song. If you're singing something, if you're singing from the first hello to the last goodbye, you've had quite a bit more chances to make lifelong friends that you would love to see again, but unfortunately right now, so the expressive capacities of the life experienced singer, I just think they don't even hold a water. The youngster can't hold compared to the lifetime of singing that, or a lifetime of life that that an aging voice has. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
It's pretty to think about. I mean, I'm 36, so I don't even really know what I'm talking about, right? My daughter's 6. I've been married happily for let's see, what year is this? 12 years. I mean, I'm probably just an infant to some of you. The fact that I feel like, you know, I see these 21-year-olds that are singing about love, and I'm like, oh, just wait, because it's so much better. Find somebody to love and love them for a long time, then come talk to me. And I'm sure you're saying, oh, nice try, bud. That makes sense. So those life experiences should inform your singing. They should inform the singers of your chorus. Just use that to your advantage. Healthy voices can sing a long time. If you Google, there's a 92 or 94-year-old gentleman who sings La Donna Mobile, La Donna Mobile, but he's 94. He sings the high note at the end of that. I can't even do that, and I'm 60 years younger than he is, and he just sings it like a champ. A healthy voice can sing a long, long time. My dad, 70, still sounds like he's 50 because he sings every day. He's had a few voice lessons from his son too. But just. All right, so here are the exercises that we need to talk about. The first ones, what we need to talk about are getting efficient vocal fold closure. So as the voice ages and it starts to atrophy, we need to make sure that what we're getting from our singers is an efficient vocal fold closure. So before we jump into this, let me show you this slide right here. This is a voice quality continuum. This is put out by the Voice Care Network. And on the left side of the screen, are you able to see that okay, everybody?
Yep,
Yep,
looks
good.
The voice quality continuum. On the left, you see 100% air, no muscle. And on the right, you see 100% muscle and no air, meaning that the vocal folds on the left-hand side are completely open and there's no closure at all. On the right-hand side, it's complete closure and there's no air escaping at all. So that's the continuum that we're dealing with here. In the middle there, we deal with a little bit of vocal fold closure, some degree or not. Starting with the clear and rich family, just for the sake of convenience, let's say that in a vibratory cycle of the vocal folds, that means when they come together for closing, let's say that in that clear and rich family, we go from 40 to 75% of the time the vocal folds stay closed. Any less than that, you're going to get breathiness. So in a sound, you'll hear, heart of my heart, I love you. Not terrible singing, just a little bit on the breathy side. What that means is the vocal folds are closed less than they are open. Now, your first instinct may be to say to that person, you need to support more. That's almost an impossible question to define. What is support? I've been studying vocal pedagogy for most of a decade. It's hard to define. What is easy to define is vocal fold closure. When the voice is breathy like that, that means their voice is not closing 100% of the time, or even 70% of the time, or 60% of the time. So a breathy sound will sound like air is escaping. Heart of my heart. You can just kind of hear the air whistling out. A little bit more down the continuum into the clear and rich family, you'll hear firm and fluty, which sounds like heart of my heart, I love you. No breathiness, but certainly not very powerful. Moving farther down, richer might be heart of my heart, I love you. And then rich and brassy sounds like heart of my heart, I love you. Pressed is heart of my heart. I'm not going to do that one too much more.
That was beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, does that make sense? So your goal is to get somebody who maybe has that breathy sound in their voice to go from breathy to at least firm but fluty, but maybe a little bit more. So some of the things that we can do are some of these exercises here. So before we jump in here, you need to know that singing is both an aerodynamic and a muscular event. It takes muscles to get the vocal folds to close part of the way, and when they do close part of the way, because of the narrowing of the tube right there at the vocal folds, they get stuck together. That process is called the Bernoulli effect. The Bernoulli effect will suck the vocal folds together because of that narrowing there. There's a decrease in pressure, all that kind of good stuff. When you do one of these exercises called the semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, what you do is you narrow the mouth opening. And when you narrow the mouth opening, that puts a back pressure on the vocal folds, meaning the amount of pressure needed to get the vocal folds to close is less, meaning all that squeezing and stuff that we have to do to get the vocal folds to close is lowered. So the exercises here are to help get more efficiency in the closure with less effort. Does that make sense?
Speak up,
I'm
guys.
sure everybody's
I've
nodding.
taken the class before.
Okay, I see everybody nodding.
Yes.
Right, so the lip trills, tongue trills, singing on the letter V, singing with your hand partially over your mouth, all of those exercises will occlude or cover up the part of the vocal tract. The ones that I particularly like are the straw and the straw in the water because they serve to add more back pressure to the singing. Particularly the straw in the water, because not only do you have to, not only are you extending the vocal tract, but you're also adding the pressure of the water, which you're exhaling or you're singing now has to break that air pressure because of the water. So let's do a couple of these. And I'll be honest, it doesn't really matter the pattern that you do them in. It's more the exercise itself that matters. So when I start with a singer that's aged or perhaps damaged, one of the hats that I wear here in the Kansas City area is I'm on the, I get a lot of referrals from the ear, nose, and throat doctors in the area for those that need singing therapy to get their voices restored. So I do that as well. Anyway, these exercises will help them gain a little bit more efficiency over their voice. So the one that's most vigorous is the straw in the water. So if you do something like a so let's try that. If you could, you don't have to sing along with me per se with the microphone on, but if you have your straw in the water, let's try that. I have a water bottle, 0.5 liters, 17 ounces of water, and it's about, less than half full. And the reason why it's that full or that empty is because I don't want to get water all over myself, because once we start bubbling, it's going to get vigorous and you might spray yourself. So don't do it right over the keyboard if you have it. All right, so I have a regular drinking straw, just a couple centimeters across, that I purchased from the grocery store. This doesn't have to be anything scientific here. We're not trying to prove a theorem. But I try to put about a half an inch to an inch of the straw in my mouth, and I try to get the tip of the straw about an inch or so in the water. All right, so I'm going to do some singing. You can sing along with me, and we'll do about 2 minutes of it, and I want us to sing after that. We'll sing Heart of My Heart, and I want you to notice if there's anything different in your singing. So maybe put it on mute for a second and sing Heart of My Heart with me. Heart of my heart, I love you. Life would be not without you. Light of my life, my darling, I love you. I love you. Very good job. You all sounded lovely. All right. So now here comes we'll just do a couple little scalar things with the straw in the water, and then we'll do straw and water on Heart of My Heart, and then we'll see if you can feel a difference. So, I'm starting on this page, and I just go da 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 with the straw in the water. You want to make sure that you're blowing bubbles into the water, like you're blowing bubbles in milk, like your mother taught you not to do, but you're going to do it now anyway. All right? And make sure that you're not getting a kazoo-like sound at the lips, but all of the air is itself coming out of the straw. One more. Yeah, good. All right, now let's sing Heart of My Heart of My Heart. We're going to sing Heart of My Heart. You sing whatever part you want to, but we're going to do it through the straw into the water. All right, now sing Heart of My Heart. Keep going. I can forget. Sing with me. I can forget you never. From you I never can sever. May you be mine forever. Now, I don't know what that did for your voice, but that was freaking amazing on my voice. Maybe I'm tighter than I thought I was because that felt great. Now, anybody that participated want to chime in and report on their experience from that? That sang along at home?
Let's hear it, singers.
Well, this is Jay. When I was at Harmony U, I actually had a couple of voice lessons with Rob and watched your voice lesson under glass, because I've over the last year and a half or so I've developed a condition that's just, it's not allowing me to sing anymore. So with working with him and watching your class, I talked with him a little bit later, and what we discovered is that my larynx is riding high and my back of my tongue is riding low, so they're kind of squashing the vocal folds, and it's something that I've just kind of developed over time. But now that I've recognized it, doing that exercise there is exactly what I need to do to get my larynx at least set lower than where it wants to ride naturally. And then the other thing is for me is to get my tongue up time.
Yeah, good. Either of the Russells want to say anything?
I heard Russell V singing.
Yes, I was singing a little bit, and yeah, it did seem to make a big difference in quality and the amount of air that was coming through. I tend to get a little breathy, especially at this time of day, and I think that is a spot-on exercise.
Yeah, yeah. Good, I'm glad.
Good.
Russell S., what'd you think?
I was singing, but I was on mute, so you didn't hear me. But I was doing.
You were a little flat.
and I can't prove you wrong because no one heard me. I didn't really notice a huge difference, but I may be singing extra quietly because it's an hour later here.
Yeah.
But,
2 hours later than me.
That's true.
So, yeah, so that can be something, particularly if somebody's been inefficient for a little while, that's going to be something that's going to help them a ton. If you get fatigued during the day or during the rehearsal, get some straw and get that going. It's just going to take the pressure off of the voice, and that's exactly what it does. It's not a miracle worker, but it does help a ton. And so for the therapy folks that I've done that have needed closure help, you know, I had a guy that he could barely talk for half an hour throughout the day, and then his voice would give out and he was done. And so for his first voice lesson, I had him sing through a straw for about 30 minutes, and then I had him sing on the letter V. No, then I had him sing on a straw for about 10 minutes, then I had him sing on the letter V for about another 10 minutes, and then I had him sing with his teeth closed for 10 minutes. All of these things were to close the mouth opening, and he sang for an entire hour, and at the end of it, he said, my voice has never felt as good in years. And it's just because of how much decreased pressure there was on his voice. His vocal folds were able to close efficiently the whole time he was singing. He was just singing My Country 'Tis of Thee, or God Save the Queen, just over and over again. I mean, it was in different keys, and we tried a couple different vocalises up and down the scale a few times. Again, what he was singing wasn't really as important as how he was singing. It was just an amazing thing for him. So that's one very effective tool to help that I would recommend to everybody just to do every single day. Just get that much efficiency in your voice every day. Another good one is this speech connection to the voice. A lot of times in my experience as a voice teacher, there is a huge disconnect between how people talk and how people sing. For example, if I say, my name is Steve Scott, I live in the Kansas City area, and I've been a barber shopper for 25 years, and then I sing like this, oh, my heart, I love you. That's a giant disconnect between what I usually do, what I usually sound like, and what I think my voice needs to sound like. That's a very important concept, that what we think our voice needs to sound like and what it actually sounds like are vastly different. And in many cases, and I would even point fingers at the opera community with which I'm associated, they do that as well, and it sounds so weird sometimes. Barbershoppers do it too. So if there's something going on with the voice, I usually just say, well, we'll say it. All right, we'll sing it like that. Say it. Sing it. Somebody that's, in fact, I encountered this with an older gentleman last week. Yeah, he had a perfectly fine speaking voice, but he was all kinds of tense in his singing voice. And I was just like, just say it. All right, say the whole phrase. Now sing it just like that. And it was, I don't know, it's like I had just floated down from a cloud, the look in his eyes. I didn't do anything magic. It was just, stop trying so hard. Anyway, some of these speech connection things. So the moan sounds like this, and don't laugh, but oh, it is a primal sound that I'm sure most of us have made on an occasion, but it's something that we all can do, and that's a super efficient sound. Listen to the closure of that moan. Oh! A moan, by the way, is different than a sigh, which is, oh. You try that. Moan from wherever you are. Wake the neighbor, moan. Oh! Oh! Oh, no! Or, hey! Just that connection to your voice is what we're going for. Remember that the purpose of this slide is to make sure that the vocal fold closure is efficient. The primary sound of the senior voice is that kind of a breath, and so getting rid of the breathiness is the goal. So all the things we can do to get efficiency in the closure is going to help. That moan is awesome. one of the things that I have some of my, I would say some, I'd say all of my voice students do, I have them sing their name. I say, hi, my name is Steve. 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 And I get them to sing it just like they say it, just because that connection to the speaking voice is so important. Another thing that's also been really effective is that creaky voice. A creaky voice is kind of that that creaky sound is the vocal folds being slightly slack, and then when they go into full phonation and into full sound, their vocal folds just kind of straighten out. I've worked with singers who have never sung in falsetto in their life, and they do a creaky voice to falsetto, and it's like, I don't know. Just allows people to get up there. You can't sing falsetto if you're too tight. Some staccato exercises are a very effective way to recognize whether or not somebody has something that is technique related or something that is physiologically related in their age singing experience. So if they're doing, if they can do a if they can do that on staccato and still make it staccato the whole time, then there's nothing wrong with their voice. But if they go they're not going to be able to get all of those notes. That means that there's something going on physiologically and they need to get checked out. So the staccato exercises, we've been taught never to sing in staccato. That's a staccato, it's fine. Those kinds of staccato is basically your vocal folds just coming together. We're not slapping them together. We're just we're just closing efficiently. It's fine. Maybe a little on the strong side, but it's not going to damage you. Last thing is that consonant help. Starting a consonant, starting a sound with one of these consonants can kind of encourage a little bit more vocal fold closure. Like you sing gay or ya 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 mo 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 nu 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 boom 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 boom. All those have a little bit of a stop sound in them, and they can kind of help encourage a back pressure on the vocal folds just to get going. All right, so these are things that I mean, if you're looking for warm-ups for your chorus, just go right down this list. Start with something semi-occluded. Either it could be a tongue trill or a singing on the letter V. Not everybody can do a tongue trill, so don't force it. A tongue trill or lip buzz or singing on the letter V. If you have straws, that's good. We're not talking like a Tim Hortons coffee stir straw or something like maybe like a McDonald's straw. Try that speech connection. I mean, hi, my name is Russ. Hi, my name is Russ. The whole chorus can sing your name. That's fine. If you feel like you need more staccato help, but definitely do those consonants. One, me, 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 ya, 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 ya. Get that closure efficient, and you'll notice a big change in your voice and in your singer's voice.
Can you go back and talk about the creaky voice one real quick?
Yeah.
I missed how that is efficient.
Just because it gets the vocal folds from a slightly slack position where they're not together, and it usually encourages a kind of a straightening out of the vocal folds. So they go from slightly slack to closed. So you can kind of hear the air popping and bubbling out.
Yep, that Elmer Fudd kind of thing.
So I usually have the chorus do like a grenade drop. And then they just go into a vocal fry at the bottom.
Yeah.
and then I'll have them do what I call an engine rever, where they go ee, ee, ee. So they go from inefficient or less efficient to more efficient, and that generally encourages a little bit better closure.
Great. Other questions, guys?
Yeah, Steve, can I ask, go back to all the way back to hearing for a second? I have a guy who has, well, he wears 2 hearing aids, and he's really, really challenged in terms of hearing a pitch. He can hear a pitch at a certain volume, whether it's an electronic pipe or the cookie that's blown. If that volume lessens, if it's decreased, in other words, if it's softer, that pitch that he hears seems to be higher.
Huh.
And I'm trying to figure out what to do other than putting him right next to the electronic pipe.
Well, what if he were to blow it?
Well, he has been sounding it, and he still sometimes comes in above it.
Is it possible for him to? Is it possible?
It's to the point where I'm
wait a
asking him
second?
not. Yeah, I'm asking him not to sing until he hears other people, and try to
Is that
get a
something that
cue
he
of.
can get checked out? I mean, how long has it been a while since he's been calibrated on those things?
The fine-tuning of his hearing aids is kind of an ongoing process. You're cutting in and out a little bit, so I'm not sure that was the question.
Yeah. I just
Okay.
stuttered a little.
Yeah, it's an ongoing situation. So I was just wondering if you had encountered this, or if anybody else had a quick fix.
I've seen some people get those devices that kind of like telescope to where he can, so they can hear their own voice. Is it a problem of him hearing his own voice, or is it a problem of him just not hearing the pitch and coming in a third higher or a third lower or something?
It's a problem of hearing the pitch at a certain intensity, a certain volume. He can match it okay, but if it's slightly less, if you're standing a little farther away from the pipe or whatever, all of a sudden he's coming in too high, creating noise in the section.
So he's probably not hearing it, and he's guessing the pitch.
I would say that's the case. Well, he described a situation where he was looking at a film clip of somebody playing a classical piece on the violin, and there was this long sustained note that the violinist played at the end of it, and he asked his wife, "Why is that pitch going up? Why is the violinist increasing the pitch and what looks like a sustained note?" And she said, "Al, it's not. The pitch isn't changing.
Wow.
It's the same pitch."
Huh.
So,
Yeah, I've actually not heard that. That's interesting.
yeah.
I can take a,
challenge.
I can go see if I can figure something out with that. I'll make a note of that.
I'll be in touch with you after class. Thanks.
Yeah, I would say for the meantime, if you can put him closer to the pipe or give him a pipe, then make sure that he sounds it at the volume that he needs it at. I think one of the questions that I asked at the beginning was, when should I stop singing? I would hope that you would delay that for, not you specifically, but I'm addressing the group as a whole. I would hope that we'd want our guys to sing with us as long as they feel like they're able to do so. As the music educator in me just thinks that the value is in the experience more than the product. So I would say if that's something that they can do, then let's see if we can get them to sing as long as they feel like they're contributing. And if that and then in the case of your singer, getting them to stand closer, that should be hopefully not too much of a chore. There are courses that by riser chairs for their guys, or they let them sit on stools. You know, the end goal is community and brotherhood and sharing singing. Hopefully we can get that happening for our folks as long as we can.
Amen to that.
Here, here.
What other questions, guys?
Well, this is Jay. I've got one of my members is actually, he's been out with surgery for a little while, and he's come back, and he noticed himself that he didn't have the same quality of voice that he thought that he had before. So he's actually taking steps. He's contacted the music team and myself asking for recommendations for voice coaching, and which was a very nice surprise. It was a singer that I wouldn't have expected to take these kinds of steps, but he's quite serious about trying to help himself get better. So actually we've steered him towards the existing music team, and we've got people on the team that are willing to work with him before chorus rehearsals. But a lot of this information I think is very important, because he is one of our older singers, and he's always had a very hoarse, kind of a breathy voice. And it may just be that some of these elements are inherent to his voice, and there may not be a whole lot we can do about it. But at least I think knowing that gives us a direction, rather than trying to get rid of something that we can't really actually do anything about.
Yeah, so I guess if this is something that happened before his surgery, but maybe has been exacerbated afterwards, is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, for as long as he's been with the chorus, he's always had kind of a breathy, soft voice, and and he's been away for a while due to surgery, but I didn't hear or perceive a big difference, because I wasn't hearing him directly, but he's perceiving a big change himself. So.
Okay, so I think my goal, if I were to work with him, I would try to get him to go from a breathy to a little bit more of a firm sound. So the way that happens is to get the vocal folds to close a little bit more firmly. We have a few things that we can do to kind of manipulate that, and share that with you just a little bit. We do something effortful with our bodies. Our body responds by having our vocal folds close. So if we were to pick up something heavy, we would get that kind of a grunt thing to happen. And what that means is that our body's trying to give us extra force and extra energy by having a downward force happen. That's called called thoracic fixation. That downward force gives us more energy. And that happens because the vocal folds close all the way, and we're able to get that fixation going. So maybe have him try a couple things, like when I've worked with singers in the past, if I don't have my handy dandy yoga ball with me that they can squeeze, I'll maybe have them squeeze a pillow, or even pressing into my hands. Like I'll have them push into my hands with their hands, and try to resist, to give a certain amount of resistance, that their vocal folds basically have no choice but to respond by coming together to meet the increased physical demand. You hear tennis players do that. They go, when they hit the ball, they want that extra force. The vocal folds do that. They give a little bit of a grunt to show that extra force. And so maybe that's something you can do with this older gentleman. Now, you don't want him to get injured or hurt himself or press, but giving a little bit more body effort in a lot of cases will go a long way. Russell, I think we did that with your chorus, didn't we? Russell Sketchley, didn't we have your chorus kind of get into pairs and press into each other? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think we did a little bit of that. We didn't spend a lot of time on it, but yeah, I remember doing that.
We didn't spend a long time, but if there's a chorus with a large
with what I would call a senior sound. That's one of the first things that I have a chorus do is just get a little bit more body effort into the singing. Not to where they're going from firm and fluty to pressed and edgy, but they get them to go from breathy to firm and fluty on this voice quality continuum. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so
I'm
there's
not sure who asked.
some level of tonus to the body so
Yeah.
that it's at least engaged but not tensed.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Steve, if you have a singer with some signs of osteoporosis, some semi-permanent, forward slouching, things like that, what are some things that you might be able to do to help that singer's voice? Obviously, you want to try to get those ear holes as close to the, upright as possible, but sometimes you just plain can't. What do I do with that as a director?
Well, so I worked with a singer on Monday who he was pretty sure that he would have his ears over over the top of his shoulders, but he just, in fact, was not. And so I took a picture and showed him, and he was surprised. Oh my gosh, it's 3 inches in front of the top of his shoulder. So I had him try leaning against the wall and putting his head back to see if he could. He was kind of squatting against the wall where his legs were at 90. And his back was against the wall, and he was trying to get his head against the wall as well. Wasn't able to get all the way back, so I got him within an inch or so. Depending on the person's what's going on with their back and the curvature of their back, that may not be possible. But one of the things that we were successful at doing is I actually had him lay on the ground. I had him lay on the ground, and his head brought his head all the way back, and just tried different levels of height with the head and the neck. Now, somebody with advanced osteoporosis, getting them to go from a 60-degree angle to a 50-degree angle is going to be an improvement. You're probably not going to get them to go back to zero. Right. So I would say that even somebody like me that's been fixated on my own alignment for the better part of a decade now, I'm never at zero, and we're never going to be at zero. We're always going to be chasing that goal, that pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. It's not going to happen, but the more that we can just kind of make sure that that's a part of our thought process as we're singing, then we get close to it. But any improvement is better than no improvement, and if they're stuck at 55%. Or 55 degrees off axis, that's what they got. That's what I'll take, and I'm happy as a director for that. Mm-hmm. So try a couple of things in chorus rehearsal. Have them try things at home. Make sure that they're doing daily stretching. If in a chorus rehearsal they can sit down in a chair and see if they can pull back into the chair, that might help, and that helps a lot of guys. Just some of the things off the top of my head. Was that Jay that asked that question?
This is Eric, but yeah, thank you. Those are good.
Oh,
what do you mean by pull back into the chair? I don't.
Well, so like, I'm thinking of a chair with a high back that they can kind of make sure that they're feeling that, like, okay, so if they're standing up, one way to feel like that they're getting success, but they're actually just making it worse, is that a lot of singers will just arch their back. Oh yeah, my ears are over my shoulders now, but now that their back is so arched that it's just creating a different set of problems. So rather than have them do that, they just, if they're sitting down, that means they have a fixed point with their hips there, or their back is mostly in a fixed spot, and that they can just start to try to manipulate the head by itself. So we're just taking out variables.
Awesome. Other questions, guys? Otherwise, it's getting to be Russ Sketchley's bedtime. He's an hour ahead of us. Did I hear another question coming?
It's already 10:30 here.
Oh, man. Russ V, did you have another question?
No, I think you got it covered.
Great.
Other than just more vocal lessons for myself, because like I say, from day to day, I either got the voice that I'm looking for or not, and it really takes some concentration. So it actually gives me a little better understanding of what some of my singers are going through, because it's very frustrating not being able to sing the way I want to be able to sing, and not quite understanding what it is that I'm doing or not doing. So it gives me some insight as to what some of the other people are going through. I can't always help them,
Yeah.
but I can sympathize. I mean.
Cool. I just noticed Steve put in the chat window, you guys, a link to his presentation there. If you want to check out those slides, it's down in your chat window. Thank you, Steve, for sharing that with us.
You betcha.
Much appreciated. Any parting words of wisdom?
Sing every day.
Yeah, basically, right?
Definitely.
We were talking about using the speaking voice. I couldn't help think of the line, "Singing is just sustained talking."
Yeah.
From the Music Man, you know.
Ice cream.
Singing on a pitch right here.
Yeah. Ice cream.
There you go.
It's funny you say that, Music Man. Tomorrow I'm coaching a chorus in Mason City, Iowa.
Nice.
That was the site of the film Music Man, and they rehearse in the music room from the musical, and there are 76 trombones hanging from the ceiling.
Love it.
My mind just blew up a little bit. That's amazing. That's awesome.
They know how to barbershop there, that's for sure.
I
hope
guess
so.
so, yeah.
Well, Steve, this has been fantastic. I know we've got a lot out of this, and I know we'll probably go back and watch it on YouTube after I post it, and to digest it all. I know I've heard this for the second time, and I got a few more tidbits out of it myself this time. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh, I'm so glad. You bet.
And the rest of you guys, stay tuned. I think our next webinar topic will be the new performance category. I'd like to have someone come and talk to us about that before we get into districts this fall. Up in your way, your neck of the woods there, Jay, right?
Yes, yeah, Russ and I will be there, I'm sure.
Terrific.
We will.
Terrific.
As will I.
Thanks, guys. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks so much, Steve. And thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care. You bet.